up, everybody? It is Phrasing with Jay, and I have been doing a lot. I've been very busy. I've been just finishing up an audiobook that took nearly a month. Oh my God. I'm going to talk to everybody in a little bit about some of the stuff that actors go through, and today's show is going to be a little different. I'm not going to talk about gaming news today primarily because there's other things I have on my mind, and don't get me wrong, I talk about video games. I love doing it from time to time. I still have a couple things that I want to talk to that involve video games coming up later in the show, but today I want to talk about some of the stuff that I've been doing. And I've been doing a lot of this stuff to where in between acting gigs that I have been taking, and it's been keeping me real busy, I've been going back into a lot. I fell into this weird 90s Disney rabbit hole, and I just got to talk about this because I don't know if people even are going to remember this stuff that I'm about to talk about, or if they have seen it and maybe they got an opinion on it. So stay tuned. Okay, I think it was when I first started this rabbit hole, I didn't even understand that I was entering the rabbit hole of 90s Disney films. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people when they enter into these dives into content in media. And I don't know how it set itself off, if I'm totally honest. I just remember I was in between doing an audiobook when I was getting the chapters to the advertising company. And I turned on, and get this, I'm going to go through a couple of these Disney titles and I'll talk about them each individually before I get on to like best, worst video game movies and all this other stuff, blah, 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 blah. You know how it is. But before I get into that, I just want to tell everybody, because I always forget to do this, but I've written it down to keep track of it. I want everybody to go check out the YouTube channel. Find me on YouTube as Game J. Go to the Twitch, Game J. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Game J is sus, etc. You could find me there, and I'll have links in the description so you guys can check it out. I've taken, because a lot of people have been asking about it, I took a lot of the music that I had on SoundCloud, and I finally started shifting it and shuffling it over to places like Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music and all those sources. So if you like my music and you want to check it out, or maybe you haven't heard my music, go check it out. You'll find it under Game J, and I like it. I just released Once Upon a Time and another song called, an older song that I was able to re-release called Black Heart Emoji, and a lot of the followers that I've had for a long time. I've had a lot of fans for that one, and I really appreciate it. And if it wasn't for all of you, I wouldn't still be making music today. So you have my thanks, and I really do appreciate it. Now that that's out the way, let me get back onto the Disney rabbit hole. The first movie I ended up watching, and you're going to laugh, it was a movie that I saw as a kid, and I don't know why, but it was called A Kid in King Arthur's Court. It's so weird to even think about this. Hold on, let me Google it really quickly. Hold on. A Kid in King Arthur's Court. And the reason this one is important is because it led me to watch another movie that had the same actor. And the actor who I'm talking about is Thomas Ian Nicholas. You guys might know him from, what movie was it? Was it American Pie that he did? I don't remember. Hold on. Let me look at this real quickly. Fuck. Was it American Pie? Yes. I believe it was Thomas Ian Nicholas. I believe he was in American Pie. But anyways, we're not talking about that movie. We're talking about A Kid in King Arthur's Court. And the whole thing about A Kid in King Arthur's Court is you have a kid who, is just a regular teenager. He gets sent back in time during his baseball game in order to save King Arthur in Camelot and to rescue this princess named Katie. Like, it's so stupid. It's a time travel movie. It's a fish out of water movie. And I have no idea why I like it so much, but I do. I really do. And there was another actor in it that you might be familiar with. His name is Daniel Craig. And, James Bond fame and all that type of stuff. And there's another one called Joss Ackland. And Joss Ackland was the reason I started watching a different series of Disney movies, which I'll get to in a little bit. But when I was watching this movie, there was something about seeing this stupid situation of where this kid gets transported back in time to save King Arthur and Camelot that I found so endearing. And there's this bad guy named Lord Belasco. I think that's how you say it. I don't exactly remember. It's been almost a week since I watched it. And God damn it. This dude is just so comically over the top. He's evil. He's trying to kill this fucking young kid because he wants to marry a princess. And it's, oh my God, it's so insane. But I will say this about A Kid in King Arthur's Court. It's from 1995. And for whatever reason, I don't know why 90s Disney movies did this. And this turns into a theme as we get later into these series of movies that I ended up watching. The movie is way better acted than it has any right being. And it just speaks to the quality of the actors presented. I mean, Thomas Ian Nicholas is a great actor. He really is. I don't give a fuck what Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes talks about. I don't give a shit. I like the movie, and it's not nostalgia. I watched it as an adult with no nostalgia based upon it because I forgot what happened. I didn't know. I just remember, I watched it as a kid. I wonder what that was about. And I watched it back and I went, you know what? This isn't bad. It's not a bad movie. It's entertaining. And on top of it, I'm pretty sure that I like it because it was released on my birthday. So there you go. One of those things. And if you want to look at some of the actors that were involved in this movie, there's Daniel Craig. You have Joss Ackland. I mean, Kate Winslet is even in this movie, a young Kate Winslet. So it's just one of those deals where I'm going, what the fuck? And then there's this scene where Thomas Ian Nicholas is talking to Merlin, who exists in a well. I don't know why that's a thing, but it's a thing. It's just, oh my God, it's just so ludicrous. And I think if people go into it watching it for that purpose, just accepting it for what it is and having fun and not thinking too hard about it, it's very much an enjoyable watch. Is it hokey? Is it kind of stupid? Is it cheesy? Yes. There's this one scene that I remember very vividly where the character, Calvin Fuller, goes up to the blacksmith and he pulls out a pair of rollerblades. And the blacksmith is like, he like looks upon them in wonder, and he's never seen such a contraption or such a device before. And he ends up making a pair of rollerblades because Calvin Fuller, Thomas Ian Nicholas's character, is trying to hit on Princess Katie. And it's just fucking crazy, dude. He's taking her on picnics. I mean, he builds a bicycle and the blacksmith is going, how do you know these things? And Calvin Fuller looks at him and goes, 8th grade metal shop. And he just makes a bicycle. He takes her out on a picnic, and then Princess Katie gets kidnapped. He's got to save her. Like, it's so ludicrous. And I just like the movie, and I can't even judge it on me watching it as a kid because, like I said earlier, I have no recollection of it. I just liked it for what it was. And is it stupid? Sure. But I think everybody's allowed to like stupid things. I remember in my past, I used to be a little hard on people for that. But as I've gotten older and as I've understood that, you know, sometimes you're just allowed to like things, even if they're bad. And it begs the question of, do I like it because I think it's a all right movie for what it is? Or do I like it because it's a bad movie? I don't really know. But what I will say is that the fact that they cast Joss Ackland to be King Arthur was an incredible choice, because if you watch that movie, if you really watch that movie, the quality that Joss Ackland brought to it was outstanding. I mean, he gave King Arthur so much gravitas and regalness, and he really made you believe that he was King Arthur. I know it's just Joss Ackland in some fucking medieval clothes and a fake crown, but when I was watching it for however long it ran, I believed it. I was in it. I buckled my seatbelt and I rolled out and I was happy with it. The reason that I talked about this today is because after I watched The Kid in King Arthur's Court, I started Googling and did my little Google foo. And I found myself come across a movie called Rookie of the Year. And this was another movie, was not made by Disney. This was a different rabbit hole, but this was not produced. It was distributed by 20th Century Studios. And Robert Harper was actually the producer who did a great job on it. And if anybody remembers the Home Alone movies, if anybody remembers like Harry and Marv, right? Well, Daniel Stern was Brickman in the movie itself, and he also directed it. And I thought, holy fucking shit, Daniel Stern directed this. That's amazing. Like, it just is to me. I love it. Rookie of the Year is the most unlikely movie that you're ever going to watch. And it has absolutely earned its reputation as being a cult classic. I mean, for God's sakes, you got Gary Busey in it as Chet Rocket Stedman. And that actually, Gary Busey did an amazing job. He really did. And once again, we have Thomas Ian Nicholas starring in this movie. And it's a 12-year-old boy named Henry Rowengartner, who is a terrible baseball player. And he has a mom who's like dating this asshole stepfather, who turns into his manager. And there's a whole bunch of shenanigans that follow with it. It's fucking insane. But what happens is Henry, the character Thomas Ian Nicholas plays, he's a terrible baseball player. And then he hurts his arm. He like breaks his arm, and then he's stuck in a cast. And then when he gets the cast taken off, you see there's a scene where the doctor is moving. He's like telling him to move his arm and how to rotate it. And he rotates his arm back. And then he tells him to like rotate his arm back. And then his tendons have like fused together. And his arm snaps forward and swats the doctor in the fucking head. And it's hilarious. It's just ridiculous. So then he's at a baseball game where, shout out to Chi-Town, the Chicago Cubs are playing. And a ball gets hit into the field or into the stands. And Henry has to throw it back. So when he cocks his arm back, you hear the sound effect go, like rubber bands tightening. And then he throws the ball, and he throws it from the stands fast as fuck, like over 100 miles an hour, to the catcher. And everybody just stops and goes, who is that? And it's so crazy. And then it's a really entertaining movie. And again, there's no reason why I should like this. I saw it as a kid, but I also didn't remember what happened outside of Thomas Ian Nicholas breaking his arm in that movie, and then all of a sudden he can throw a fastball. And the reason I bring up Gary Busey is because you had a really good chemistry between Thomas Ian Nicholas and Gary Busey, and playing Chet Stedman. And Chet Stedman is a character who is past his prime. He was a great player at one point in time, really skilled, but you could see in the movie that he was hurting now, that his shoulder was going out and he needed to ice it all the time. And then he was given responsibility of Henry, and he didn't want to do it at the beginning. And then you have this simple story of, through Henry, Chet Stedman kind of found himself again. And you have this stepfather who, toward the middle of the movie, Henry's mother punches in the face and sends him flying out the door of their house, and he rolls over the stairs because they tried to trade him to the Yankees for $25 million. They tried to sell him. Like, they tried to sell this kid for $25 million. And it was just kind of an incredible, stupid, silly story that was really entertaining. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, these things just started appealing to me, and I really enjoyed it. So once again, it's one of those deals where if you find yourself wanting to go on a little rabbit hole of Disney and family comedy movies, I mean, this thing was made in 1993. This was before A Kid in King Arthur's Court. Dare I say, A Kid in King Arthur's Court got Thomas Ian Nicholas the role of a kid in King Arthur's Court because it's about baseball, and Rookie of the Year was about baseball. A Kid in King Arthur's Court was about baseball, a baseball playing kid. And so maybe there might be a correlation there. I'm not sure. I can't confirm it. Maybe Thomas Ian Nicholas has talked about it. I don't know. I haven't sought it out. I'm just talking about the movies in themselves. And It's so ridiculous, man. And then what I did was, this is a big shift, okay? This is a real big shift. I went from watching a Kid in King Arthur's Court to Rookie of the Year to, I ended up turning on the movie Black Knight with Martin Lawrence. And that movie was not for kids, obviously, but I ended up turning it on, and you got Martin Lawrence working at this rundown castle funland for kids, and then he's kind of a jerk. He's very selfish and he doesn't care about anybody. And then through the movie, you have him kind of learn about honor and learn about being an upstanding person. And I thought it was a good movie. I really did. It wasn't as good as the other ones I had watched, but I mean, this was made in 2001, and Martin Lawrence plays a character named Jamal, and Jamal is kind of a jerk. And it was a really good film. It just really was. And I got to give a lot of credit to the supporting cast. Okay, you have Vincent Regan as Percival. You have Kevin Conway as King Leo. You got Marsha Thompson as Nicole, Victoria, as she introduced herself earlier. And the one character who I really liked, who they introduced very early on into the movie, and then later we find out he was like a warrior, and he was a knight, and he was really revered at one point in time. It's Tom Wilkinson's character of Sir Nolte of Marlborough. And that, when Martin Lawrence first comes upon him, Sir Nolte's drunk and he's dirty and he passes out. And you have Martin Lawrence, after he sees Nolte pass out, you got Martin Lawrence kind of leaning over the body and he's trying to help him, and he's going, white man down, white man down. It's so funny. Look, I know it's not a major blockbuster or whatever, but it doesn't stop or change the fact that it's honestly an entertaining movie. It's just fun. And I don't know why I went through this rabbit hole, so to speak, but I did. And I don't know how I came across it. I think I was just, once I saw Kid in King Arthur's Court, I went, okay, you know what? I wonder if they made other movies like this. And this wasn't a movie that I watched as a kid. Oh, God, no. It was just a movie that I came across. I went, oh, my God, this is awesome. I'm so in. Like, this is funny as fuck. And oddly, it's emotionally resonant with me. I don't know why. It was just the ability of Tom Wilkinson and Martin Lawrence's chemistry and this kind of buddy comedy sensibility. And then this character who's a little bit scandalous and really doesn't care about anybody else. He goes on to find his own honor within him. And it was one of those things where I went, yeah, you know what? I can get behind that message. You know, it may be just a fantasy adventure buddy comedy movie, but it didn't change the fact that within it, it was still good. There was enough in it to keep me entertained, to keep me wanting to watch more. Now, I don't know how a Black Knight 2 would be. Maybe Martin Lawrence goes back and does that, because at the end of the movie, he ends up getting thrown into the history of Rome. And then next thing you know, the gates open and a bunch of lions go chasing after him. And then the movie ends with Martin Lawrence turning around, running away, screaming. It's just... Maybe it's just time travel movies. Maybe that's what I like. Maybe I like fish out of water time travel movies. I can't be sure. But what I can say is Black Knight was a thoroughly entertaining film, and I do recommend people go out and check it out. I really do. Look, it's been around since 2001. It's been out forever. Oh, God, it's been over 20 years since that movie's been out. I'm pretty sure you could find it through legal means or other means if you have to. And from here, I found myself Googling again, and through the utilization of Google Foo, I came across Joss Ackland, and I was looking at some of the stuff he had done, primarily because when I saw him in A Kid in King Arthur's Court, I was looking at him the entire time whenever he was on screen, and I'm going, you know, this guy looks familiar. Like, he looks really familiar. Where do I know this guy from? Like, where do I know him from? I have no idea. So I started Googling it. And then, to my surprise, it turns out that he was Hans in the Mighty Ducks movie. Like, he's Hans from the Mighty Ducks movie, all three of them. Mighty Ducks 1, D2 Mighty Ducks, and D3 the Mighty Ducks. Like, it was baffling. It was baffling for that connection to happen to me. I had no idea. And so I ended up watching the Mighty Ducks movies, all three of them. And the first Mighty Ducks movie is actually really good. I mean, it's really good. And it's not just good as, you know, a family friendly type of movie. It's made by Walt Disney and Walt Disney Studios, Motion Pictures, etc. And it was just a really well done movie. And there's something about Emilio Estevez's quality as Gordon Bombay, as the coach, that I really bought into. I really did. And I like Joshua Jackson as Charlie Conway. And God, Joshua Jackson's been acting for forever now, and he's done well for himself, just like the rest of the cast. And I remember watching the Mighty Ducks, and when I first started watching it, I was going, okay, I was just watching it for Hans's scenes, and that's how it started out. And don't get me wrong, the deeper I got into the Mighty Ducks, phrasing, I started really appreciating what this movie was trying to accomplish. Yes, it's a comedy. It's goofy. It's silly. Emilio Estevez is funny. The cast is funny and entertaining, but it was the core. This was about a guy, Gordon Bombay, seeking redemption for his failures. And he learned a lot about himself, because Gordon Bombay is this lawyer and he works for a firm and he's kind of ruthless and he always goes for the W. And then he gets a DUI and they don't fire him. The head of the firm doesn't fire him, but they give him a leave of absence. And then because of the court order that was bestowed upon him, they make him go do community service. And that's how he ends up coaching D5, what the Mighty Ducks team was called before. They were called, the Ducks, because Mr. Duckworth, quack, 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 Mr. Duckworth. And you see Gordon Bombay go from not really liking these kids and just doing something to check off the hours of community service to really like falling in love with these kids and really wanting to help them and guide them. And I like that. I've had good coaches like that in my life who, through sports and athletics, tried to equip me with skills that I could take throughout my life. And to those coaches' credits, they've helped me do that. So when I was watching this movie, I could get like flashes and images of all the coaches that have helped me, all the martial art teachers I've had, Muay Thai and Taekwondo and boxing and kickboxing and MMA and all these football and baseball and all these people, these good guys who really guided me and helped me out a lot. And then, you got Joss Ackland, who's just a fantastic actor, and he's this wise, not Yoda-like character, but he's just a wise, older male figure that Gordon Bombay could always go back to in search of guidance when he needed it. And Hans was calm, and he was a funny old man, but he had a lot of wisdom to share. And I think it's something that all people should go and watch. Now, that's just the Mighty Ducks movie. When you get to D2 and D3, the sequels, yeah, they kind of ebb and flow in their levels of how good they are compared to the first one. But if I look at them as just standalones, right, even though you have to have a little understanding of the first movie to watch the other two, it's a little more comedy driven. And yeah, it's not as good as the first one, but sequels rarely are. So I think if you're going to watch the Mighty Ducks movies, you probably should just watch them all. Maybe not in one sitting. That's a lot of fucking Mighty Ducks to watch. But if you can, if you marathon it, God, is it like one humongous, overarching, branching story that by D3, Joss Ackland's character, Hans, dies. And it actually impacted me a little bit because I'd been with these characters for so long, for so many hours, through at that time 3 movies, and for him to die at that time, and they're playing as Team USA. and you see Gordon Bombay kind of go through this thing to where he kind of becomes obsessed with money and he becomes an asshole in a couple of different ways. And then he kind of goes back to the roots of who his character is. And, oh no, that's D2. No. I'm confusing movies. I absolutely am. D2 is where they play for Team USA and he kind of becomes a dickhead. And then throughout the course of the movie, he kind of reverts back to the Gordon Bombay that we knew from the first movie, and there's a reconciliation, and it's great. By D3, this is where the movie changes, and you have a different coach, and Emilio Estevez wasn't in the movie as much, and I'm not sure why. There could have been contract negotiations. It could have just been the way the writers wanted to go with the movie itself, not show. And I still felt that Gordon Bombay's character was impactful because in D3, the Mighty Ducks, the Ducks get a scholarship to a prep school. Like they get scholarships, and that's amazing. So they're junior varsity. And they end up getting in this rivalry with the varsity team. And they get a new coach, like I was talking about earlier, and his name is Coach Orion. And Coach Orion, on the surface, he's kind of a hard-nosed asshole of a coach. And the team doesn't like him, and there's a lot of back and forth, and there's drama involved in it. But the reason I talk about this is because when Gordon Bombay enters the scene again after Hans's death and his funeral, and Joshua Jackson's character, Charlie, is really upset and he kind of doesn't know where to turn. And he only found out about Hans dying because he had quit. He had like dropped out. And I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing this because, Coach Orion's a bastard and I hate this shit. Him and Fulton were going to amusement parks, and then Fulton was just kind of like, yeah, I can't just hang out and have fun forever. This isn't fun anymore. I'm going back. And it turned into a situation where Gordon Bombay shows up at Charlie's house and wakes him up. He sets his alarm, and then Charlie kind of doesn't want to get out of bed. So Gordon Bombay does what every good male role model does. He flips the fucking mattress at 6:00 in the morning. And then the reason that it leads to is he takes him out to the rink, and we see a little more about Coach Orion. Coach Orion didn't quit hockey because he couldn't hack it anymore, or because he wasn't good at it anymore, or he's just a has-been or never was. Coach Orion ended up quitting hockey to be with his daughter, who suffered paralysis due to a car crash. And you see this really beautiful scene where Coach Orion is taking his daughter in a wheelchair. And it's heartbreaking in a way because his little girl's got the skates on her feet, but she's in a wheelchair and she can't use her legs. And Coach Orion is skating with grace. And it's the first time you see him smile and he's happy. And that's where Emilio Estevez's character, Gordon Bombay, is telling Charlie that why he quit and why he didn't go on to continue to play hockey. He stayed for his kid. And I think anybody who's a parent will really take that to heart, because that's the sign of an incredible parent and an incredible person, to give up your dreams and to give up what you do and everything that you do to be with your child, especially after an accident, which Coach Orion felt like he was responsible for because he was driving. And it wasn't he was being negligent. They were hit. He didn't crash into people. Somebody crashed into them. And that's why his daughter was paralyzed. So when I saw that scene of Coach Orion taking his little girl out on the ice, it was touching. It was really a touching moment. And then you had the other scene of Hans dying and all that kind of stuff, where the Ducks trade jerseys and they get the new Duck jerseys because it's a fucking kids movie, of course. And they go back on the ice and they skate in a circle to honor Hans. It's just, when you're 3 movies in and you're watching it on a fucking binge, oh my God, it's just a very heartfelt scene. And see, that's the thing. While D2 and D3 can't compare, to the original Mighty Ducks movie, there's still elements of the movies in itself that call back to the first movie, and they still have a similar level of emotional resonance that the first movie contained. And I think it's worth a watch. I really do. And I know I've been talking a lot about movies today. I mean, shit, I'm an actor, so why wouldn't I talk about movies? I've talked about games for a lot. A little movie talk isn't the worst thing in the world. So we go from hockey movies and all this kind of stuff. Here's what's really funny. I started at baseball. I went into Castle, people out of time, fish out of water movies. And then I went to hockey with the Mighty Ducks. And then for whatever reason, I went back to baseball. And I ended up watching Angels in the Outfield. Like that was nuts for me just to end up watching. And Angels in the Outfield, I saw it as a kid. So once again, I went back to it and I went, oh, okay, let's see what this is about. And I remember turning it on going, okay, this has got to be interesting because I like Christopher Lloyd, I like Danny Glover, and I completely forgot that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in the lead. I really forgot about that. I completely forgot Matthew McConaughey was in the movie, Adrian Brody, like all these, now they're fucking super famous. You know what I mean? So I'm going, oh, what the fuck? This is crazy. I kept watching the screen, and then all these actors would pop up. I'm going, holy shit, that's Tony Danza. Like, oh fuck, that's Christopher Lloyd. I completely forgot he was Knox. I'm going, that's Christopher Lloyd. Shit, it's the Doc. He's Al. And the character, his name was Al, the angel. And this movie is way better than it has any right to be. And I wholeheartedly mean that, because this was a story that, and I got to give all the credit to Joseph Gordon-Levitt too, because Angels in the Outfield is a tough movie in a couple of ways, because you have the characters of Roger Bowman and his best friend JP, and they love, watching baseball games, the California Angels, and they're diehard fans. And there's one point, and they're foster kids. All right. So that's something you got to keep in mind. They're foster children. They're pretty much wards of the state, which is, dude, that's tough. That's just really difficult for anybody, much less a young kid, like really young kids. And when Roger sees his dad and asks him when there'll be a family again, his father, who's a piece of shit, honestly, he says to him, when the Angels win the pennant. And because Roger's a kid, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is a kid, he prays to God. And he actually asks God to help the Angels win so he can be reunited with his dad. And that in itself is heartbreaking. Because if this wasn't a Disney movie, that would never happen. Angels are not going to come down out of the fucking sky and help a failing professional baseball team win the pennant. But this is a movie. And there's this Danny Glover's character, Knox, is George Knox. Hates kids. Honestly hates kids in the beginning. And he allows Roger and JP to be around because they're a good luck charm. And throughout the course of the movie, yes, it's a story and a comedy about angels in the outfield, where the Angels help this misfit baseball team who's constantly failing win the pennant. And throughout it, you have this story of Roger going from praying to God to have the Angels win the pennant so he can be a family again with his dad, and a dad who doesn't want him, which is heartbreaking. And I said that a couple times, but that's really shitty, man. And unfortunately, that's part of life. And they had this wonderful foster mother who is clearly a really good person. And it wasn't the way they wrote her. They wrote her to be a very funny, wise, older woman who was very loving and loved helping these kids. And God, I would hope that any foster kids who are now adults had that type of foster mother, because that woman was awesome. And throughout the movie, you see George Knox go from this guy who hates kids and is kind of just lost who he is. Again, another movie where somebody loses who they are, kind of like Rookie of the Year. Instead of Rocket, it's George Knox. George Knox at the end of the movie goes, from the beginning of the movie, he hates kids and all this type of stuff, to he ends up loving these kids, man. And he adopts them. And that is something that I completely forgot. And I'm being serious, because I completely forgot that Knox adopts Roger and JP, and he wants to try to be a father. And it's one of those things where you think of the phrase "truth is stranger than fiction," and God, I don't know, man. That felt real. I know it's acting. I know it's a movie. I know it's just a stupid kids movie. But for whatever reason, Danny Glover's ability to act and to be vulnerable and to be loving to these two kids was absolutely incredible. There is a scene that I'm always going to remember where this was after Roger is informed. He goes to court because he can't go to a baseball game for Knox and just to be with the Angels. And he goes to court, and his father walks out on him. And you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt do this amazing job of acting where he's upset. I mean, he finds out his father abandoned him, and he walks away. And all this motherfucker could say is, sorry. And he walks away. And you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt like looking at his father, the movie father, walking out the door, and he's going, Dad? And he realizes this motherfucker isn't coming back. And you could see the heartbreak in this kid's face. You could see it. And it's one of those things where I look at it as an actor and I go, God damn, that's good. That's talent, man. Because you believe it. And I believed it. I know it's acting. But when I watched it, the emotional resonance, and I'll speak about this again, it was there. I genuinely felt bad for this little kid who lost his dad, whose father abandoned him. And just for the movie to go the other way, where George Knox, a character who didn't like kids, ends up adopting Roger and JP and wants to love them as a father. That's amazing. Because we talk about a happy ending. The Angels win the game, and they went to the World Series. They won the American League pennant. They went to the World Series. That's fucking awesome. I mean, at the end of the movie, you have JP. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. JP sees Al, Christopher Lloyd's character, and he's going like, I knew it could happen, da 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 da. And Christopher Lloyd flies off and goes, we're always watching. And it's moving. It's absolutely moving. And this goes to the quality of the acting. And just the writing sometimes isn't the best, but I think what they were able to accomplish was absolutely incredible with what they were given. And I will absolutely tell people to go check this out. On top of the fact, it's about the fucking White Sox, and they used him as a major villain. Like the final game of the season is against the White Sox, and I go, oh, that's awesome, man. First the Chicago Cubs, now the Chicago White Sox. I'm sold. Put me in. I'm watching this shit. It was awesome. I really liked it. And look, I know that I'm talking about movies that have a variable of quality when you look at them, but I'm looking at the moments that were really strong in these movies, and there are enough to keep you invested, even if you don't have a technically nostalgic reason to go back and look at them. I think this is what I was talking about by 90s movies, and specifically like 90s Disney movies were just absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, they're way better than they have any right to be. I mean, I completely forgot that there was so much power in the movie's ability to not only have comedy and have this kind of funny side to them, but at the same moment, the interwoven in between all of that in these pages is a drama, is a story, especially in Angels in the Outfield. I mean, this is about orphans getting adopted by a guy who lost himself, who found himself through these kids and wanted to be a father. I mean, that's no easy task. I mean, at the end of it, Angels in the Outfield is about love, man. And that's powerful. No matter what anybody thinks about the movie, the fact that this even got made is incredible. And then after Angels in the Outfield, I moved on to another movie called Blank Check. Now, for anybody who does not know about the movie Blank Check, this one, I was kind of blown away that Disney even made something like this. I really am, because Blank Check is a movie that involves a 12-year-old committing check fraud, and after he accidentally gets a check for $1 million and spends it and cashes this motherfucker, completely unaware that it belongs to criminals. On top of the fact, this is also a movie that Tone Loc is in. If you don't know who Tone Loc is in, he plays a character named Juice in the movie, and go check out Tone Loc. Tone Loc's dope. All right? If I got to tell you, then you don't know. So go fucking find out. Blank Check is the character of Preston Waters is mistakenly given a blank check by a dude who runs over his bicycle. And then he fills in the $1 million as the amount. He's actually able to spend it. And it's one of those deals where you have this weird happenstance where the kid cashes a check, Preston Waters, and then he hires the driver named Henry, who becomes his friend. He develops a character named Mr. McIntosh, and he starts spending, but the money launderer, Carl Quigley, is pissed off, and he's out of jail. And Quigley is played by Michael Ferrier. And he did a great job. I like that guy as an actor. He's really good. And the actor who played Henry is Rick DeCummum. I think phrasing. I think that's how you say his last name. Either way, it was really well acted. But there was this one part of the movie that was a little sussy to me, man. It really was. And this was toward the mid of the movie, toward the end. You have this woman named Shay Stanley who plays Karen Duffy. And you have to remember, Shay Stanley is a fully fledged adult woman, and the character of Preston Waters, played by Brian Bonsall, is a 12-year-old boy. And at the end of the movie, I got to go back. Those two go on a date earlier in the movie, and that fucked me up. I was watching it, I was going, wait a second. This 12-year-old likes this chick. Why is Shay doing this? And then later we find out she's part of the FBI and it was part of her job. And I'm going, what the fuck? Toward the end of the movie, after the third act has happened and all this kind of stuff, you see Shay kiss Preston Waters after she tells him to call him in like 10 years. He goes 5, and she goes 7, and he goes 6 or something like that. And she goes, okay. And I'm going, well, and I'm doing the math, and I'm going, okay, if it's 6 years, you do realize that, lady, you are a full-grown adult woman, and you're telling this kid to call you when he's 18. Dude, find a boyfriend who's of your age. What's wrong with you, dude? You're in your 30s. What's wrong? Like, oh my God. What the ever-living fuck is going on in this movie? I thought this was like a movie about a kid cashing a blank check and getting in trouble with some gangsters. And now there's this lady who we think is a bank teller or works at a bank, is now an FBI agent, and then she's hitting on a fucking 12-year-old kid. I'm going, what the fuck is wrong with this movie? What is wrong with this movie? You have to watch this movie. You absolutely have to, because you'll watch this movie, and I swear to God, you're going to see the same things I see. And it's just, motherfucker, are you kidding me? This is so weird. And I forgot to tell you that the guy who ran over his bike was Quigley. it was the money laundering convict. So yeah, there was a reason. I completely forgot that until now. But either way, Blank Check is a weird movie. It's entertaining, but it was that whole thing between Shay Stanley and Preston Waters that kind of made me go, okay, lady, you're borderline right now. Okay. In other parts of don't know. It was just the fact that and I have to talk about this again. I don't know why I'm harping on it, but it freaked me out, man, is the fact that Shay Stanley kissed the 12-year-old kid. Like, why? You could have done like movie. What are you doing? Seriously, writers, what's wrong with you? Do people have some kind of weird thing going on in their minds so they think that's okay? No, dude. Like, if you're going to have Shay Stanley kiss anybody, or even if she is going to kiss Preston or whatever, kiss him on the head, kiss him on the cheek in like the kind of, okay, it's cute, but you're a kid, so this is never going to go any further. No, she straight up agrees to let him call her in like 6 or 7 years when he's quote unquote legal. What the fuck, Disney? What are you doing? That is not something you want to present to young kids growing up. They're going to think that they can go hit on any fucking woman they can when they're 12 years old and it's going to work out. That's not life, man. And if it is, you got to keep those kids away from that woman. That's not romance. That's a felony. I think I've talked enough about Disney movies and all this other stuff and these weird little rabbit holes that I've gone down. But you know what? That's okay. I had to tell you all about it because I went through this, like I said, I went through this whole rabbit hole and I'm going, I got to tell everybody about this. This is fucking insane. And in between acting gigs, like, good God, was this a weird way to spend my off times? Now, I have been doing other things. Okay. Currently, I'm preparing to enter a bodybuilding competition, and that's not for the reasons you think. It's just because since I retired from fighting, I've been really thirsty for competition, and I've wanted to compete again, but I want to be able to remember lines and remember people's names in the next 10 years. So I don't think I've ever told anybody the reason I stopped fighting, but the reason I stopped fighting is because I started getting headaches, and I started forgetting things and my memory was getting bad. So it came a time to where I understood that my time for professional fighting and amateur fighting and that type of combat was no longer possible if I wanted to have a brain left in my head. Don't get me wrong. Physically, I could completely keep fighting. I could have dealt with the headaches. I could have continued training and doing all that. And who knows where I would have gone. But acting found its way to me and it started picking up more. And I looked at it honestly and I went, you know what? I'm going to stop fighting. I'll still spar. I'll still do all that type of stuff. I still fight. I just don't fight in a cage or a ring anymore. And that's fine. Like, you know, I've done it and I'm happy to say that I have, but the thirst of competition still boils inside my blood. And I'm always going to want to compete in some way. So I was told by some good-natured casting people that they wanted me to get bigger. And I went, what do you want me to get fat? They went, no, Jay, what are you talking about? And I'm like, we said get bigger. And they went, no, we want you to put on more muscle. And it really came down to the fact of I'm short. You know, I'm not a midget, but I'm 5'8". So I'm not the tallest guy in the world, but I'm still short when compared to other actors who could be 6 foot, 6'2", 6'3", whatever, and stockier or bigger. And if you look at me on film by comparison, yeah, I need to fill out. I need to be bigger. So I thought about entering a bodybuilding competition to give myself added motivation. It would give me another goal to shoot for because I'm very much a goal-oriented guy and I like the whole thought of competing in bodybuilding just one time. I'm not saying I'm going to make a career out of it. No, that's ludicrous. I have too much other stuff on my plate as far as being an actor and a voiceover talent, so I'm doing that. Plus, I make music and I'm thinking about writing a new song and I talked to a singer who might write the chorus for me. I just don't know how that's going to go. I haven't even started that process yet. So I'm currently still doing rap battles as a writer and a flow tester and sometimes artist for Awesome Rap Battles by Roshan. I highly recommend you check out Roshan and tell him Game J sent you. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. It's a great YouTube channel and I've loved working with him. It's fucking awesome. Matter of fact, I do have to write a song for him as we speak. I've just been so busy with the audiobooks and all the other voice work I've been doing. I haven't had the time because I don't want to rush into anything. And like people know me, whenever I do something, I want to give it my best effort. I don't want to sacrifice quality of what I can do professionally just to get something done. And, shout out to my boy Rashawn, the owner of Awesome Rap Battles and the creator. He's been absolutely stellar in giving me the time that I need. And he's been very understanding about schedule. And I couldn't thank him more. I love collabing with the dude. So go check out Awesome Rap Battles. I'd really appreciate it. If we move on to a different subject and a different segment that I wanted to talk about today, I've been talking about the best and the worst video game movies, in my opinion, obviously. And big shout out to friend of the show and the streams and the YouTube channel, to my boy JT, Johnny Trogs. It was during a live stream. Go follow me on Twitch at GameJ. And JT was telling me we were watching the Minecraft movie trailer and how he would have rather seen a Minecraft animated movie. And then he related that to the Super Mario Brothers animated movie that came out. And I hadn't seen it. And, excuse me, this was during the time where I had time to sit down and watch it. So I ended up watching it. And the Super Mario Brothers movie, not the live action one. That one was, there's been a load of controversy about that. However, still entertaining, believe it or not. John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins. I think that's how you say his name. But, wait, how do I say his name? Hold on. I'm Googling it right now. Live action. How do I say his name? Fuck. How do I say his fucking name? Bob Hoskins. That's it. Bob Hoskins. Can't believe I forgot that. The one that came out in 1993. I'm not talking about that movie. I'm talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out in 2023. And I cannot believe it took me 2 fucking years to watch that movie. But I'll tell you what. It is a great example of a good animated movie. It really is. The only thing I didn't like was I wasn't really sold on the Princess Peach's voice actor, and that has nothing against her. Not at all. I don't have any ill will towards her. I don't have any problems with Anya Taylor-Joy. I just thought she wasn't the best fit. Either way, the movie was good. I liked how they introduced the story itself and how they made the Mario Brothers this like stereotypical kind of plumbing dudes who went off and branched out on their own, and they're trying to make a living for themselves. And it was kind of funny how you saw a lot of the one-liners from Mario come from his family members who were more traditionally Italian, and how you would hear them speak and their cadences and their accent, because Mario and Luigi, to their credit, didn't have the thickest Italian accents. No, they didn't. They were actually, it was slight, and I thought that was a good choice. And the Mario movie in itself, the Super Mario Brothers movie, it was entertaining. It was, and it was a good example to JT, Johnny Trogs' credit on what video game movies should be. And I actually agree with that, especially going back to the old live stream. And I think about that conversation. I go, you know what? He's got a great point. And the gamers who have also been very vocal on the internet have a good point. If you're going to do a Minecraft movie and you're going to make it live action, yeah, make it live action, but then change it when you get over to Minecraft world, because that would have been a better solution. I just think it would have went off better. But the Super Mario Brothers movie, I liked how they introduced Donkey Kong. I liked everything about it. I just thought it was a really good fit for the Super Mario Brothers franchise. I think it's entertaining. I think it's one of those things where if you watch it, it's one of those deals where you go, yeah, that's what you would expect from a Super Mario Brothers movie. And I think that's what makes it probably one of the best video game movies that I've seen, because it's very faithful to the video game source material. And they were able to write a story around it that I myself, as a fan of Mario Brothers growing up, I could get behind it. I really could. And there was callbacks to all the different Mario games and all that kind of stuff throughout history. So it was definitely a movie that was made with care, that respected the source material, and it was good. I don't know if I'd rewatch it again, but that's me. I'm sure there's other people who would watch it more than one time. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll go back to it once every couple of years just to enjoy it. But other than that, I'm not too sure. However, I will say that the Super Mario Brothers movie from 2023 is an excellent example of one of the best video game movies out there because it's a good representation of what you expect a video game movie to be. I like the fact that it was all animation and not live action / animation, or if it was just live action and another attempt to kind of correct what happened in the Super Mario Brothers movie in 1993. And if, since we're on the subject, I can put Mario Brothers in both categories. One of the best video game movies was the Super Mario Brothers movie of 2023. One of the worst video game movies was the Super Mario Brothers movie of 1993, or the Mario Brothers movie, whichever one it was called. And that wasn't even necessarily the actor's fault. It wasn't Bob Hoskins' fault. It wasn't John Leguizamo's fault. There's been a lot of controversy and what happened on the production there. And don't get me wrong, like the enemies didn't look right and the bomb bombs were funny. There was a couple funny pieces in there, but in large, you could tell that this was a movie that could have been a lot better. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to be a lot better because of production woes. And the result is, unfortunately, what you see on the screen. And that doesn't bring me any joy to say it. It's just a reality. So if you want to compare the two, I would recommend go watching both. If you haven't seen the live action Mario Brothers movie, go watch it. Just watch it. It's kind of a must watch, but maybe not for the reasons you might think. I mean, it's too different. I can't say they bastardized anything. It's not worth getting upset about. It's just a movie that didn't work. I could tell that the actors were there. You had good actors there. You really did. If this movie was just handled better, you could have made a little bit of magic with it. And unfortunately, that's not what happened. So, Super Mario Brothers is in the best video game movies category. And it's also, unfortunately, in the worst video game movies category for separate reasons. But like I said before, they're both worth checking out for different reasons. Now, I'm going to slightly shift gears here and talk about something a little different. I told everybody earlier about I was going to talk on some of the stuff that actors and voice actors go through, some of the woes, and I'm not necessarily having any gripes, but this is just something that through my experience I've discovered. And if you are a aspiring actor or voice actor, this is just some of the stuff that I think you should be aware of. And this is more specifically geared to voice acting, and I'm trying to separate them out. I mean, I might talk about the acting stuff today. I don't know. It all kind of rolls into one. Specifically with voice acting, there are times when you read casting calls and it could be something as simple as things aren't spelled correctly or the formatting is bad. And when you're auditioning, you kind of don't have any direction on how you want the lines to be said, so it can affect your audition. And you know what? It's just a little gripe. It's not a big deal, but it is something that can affect your performance, because if something isn't detailed and you don't really know how you go about it, you're kind of left to your own instincts. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it can provide really good results. However, if you read something when you're auditioning for it that's just formatted improperly, or there's no direction on how the production wants the voice or wants the tone, or what type of baritone or pitch they want the character to have, you're kind of left in the dark, and then it's kind of up to you. So in those types of situations, it might not even be you. It could just be for why you don't get a role. It could just be because it was poorly formatted. And then there's times where, and this is specifically the audiobooks, I have read some great books and done some great narrations. I've read a great audiobook. Oh, I can't talk about that. Fuck, that's an NDA. Shit, never mind. But legally, I can't talk about them until they're released. But I've done some great audiobooks in the past, and I've also read some books and narrated some that were awful. They were god fucking awful. I mean, we're talking poorly formatted, spelling errors, the way that the writing was even done, where I was really happy to discover that the companies I worked for were real companies and they weren't just farming my voice for AI. Like it was a legitimate fear at a point in time. And I ended up stopping work on one audiobook just to recheck to see if the production company I was working for was real. And in fact, it was a real company. And it was fine. It ended up being totally fine. My fears were alleviated very quickly. It was just one of those deals where I felt a little uncomfortable at that time. So you got to watch out for that too. Speaking about people who will farm voices for AI, there are times that if you're an aspiring voice actor or even an experienced one or a professional one who, I'm sure you know this, but maybe some people don't or might not think about it. Sometimes you'll come upon casting calls from Voice Acting Club, castingcallclub.com, like various other sites. And it looks suspicious because they'll say you're going to be doing an audition for voiceovers and it's for a YouTube channel, but they won't list the YouTube channel. It's a brand new profile and there's no mention of previous work or anything like that. And if it's a new profile, fine. But a content creator, if they're making a YouTube channel or if one's not created yet, they're going to usually tell you that it's not created yet. Or if they are established, they'll have a link to their YouTube channel and it would usually be similar to what the name of the person is. Or if it's a different name, it's a YouTube channel. And there's a certain amount of vetting that you can do in order to discern if it's a real casting call or not. And that's something I want all voice actors and actors alike to really consider when they audition for things. And if you're never sure, ask, because based on the response or lack of response that you get can determine if that place is real or not. And that's a big deal because the last thing you want in the world of growing AI being used for everything, it's something you got to be aware of. And the last thing I want is somebody to get their voice stolen and them not get paid for their work, because yes, voice acting is fun. Some people do it as a hobby, but for the people who do it professionally, like myself and many others out there, you got to be aware of this stuff, man. And I would hate for any of you to get ripped off for the hard work that you have done. There's another thing that you got to be aware of, and this is live voiceover directed sessions. Okay, if you're new to voice acting, please keep in mind that sometimes you're going to run into voice directors or producers, or maybe it's just the creator themselves, depending on the size and the scale and the scope of the project. Sometimes you'll run into people who are very vibrant and colorful and happy to talk and bullshit with you and just chit chat every now and then in between takes or whatever. And that's cool. That's great, man. And I find that a lot in smaller projects with independent creators who are just really enthusiastic about you coming aboard, and they're happy and they're excited and you're helping them make their dream come true with what they're trying to make. And that's great. That's great. And for me, it absolutely helps my performance and working harder for them. Now, on the flip side, sometimes you have people's personalities that you don't really mesh with. And that's not bad. It's not a fucking crime. Like we were talking about the potential crime and the felony that was happening in the movie Blank Check. No, it's nothing like that. But no, it's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes you'll find other production companies or even independent creators or small creators, whatever the scale or scope. Sometimes you'll run into people that are kind of by the book. Your personality may not sync up with theirs too well. And at that point, it just becomes about the work. And you still have to be able to communicate well with these people because yes, voice acting is fun. Voice acting is a great job and a profession to have. I'll never say it's not. I try to remain as humble as I can about it. But sometimes you have to be aware that everybody you work with, you're not always going to like, or you're not going to get along, or sometimes it's just really by the book. You'll do your lines, blah, 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 blah. And they go, all right, thanks, bye. Checks in the mail. And it's like, okay, bye. And that's it. And that's okay. Because you have to remember that, like, not everybody's going to sit there and be buddy-buddy with you. Not everybody's able to do that. It could be for time. It could be that's not their personality, or just them being professionally courteous and that's it because they have a million other things to do, or they could just not be that type of person. And you have to be okay with that. Another thing that you have to be aware of if you're going to step into the field of voice acting, or if you're a voice actor in general. And maybe these are just things that can help any voice actor. You have to be okay with retakes, okay? And depending on the size, scale, scope, and the budget of the project, depending and how you feel about it personally, sometimes you might not get paid for a retake. Sometimes you may not get paid for additional mixing or engineering on your side. And trust me, there have been times where I've had to not take extra money for those types of things. And it's not because I didn't ask for it. It's because I asked them what their budget was early on. And this is something I recommend everybody do. If you ask what the budget is of the project, and they'll be really honest with you. You would hope they would be really honest with you. And it's one of those things where when you know, then you can kind of determine what you price people at and what your rates are going to be. Because if the budget is low and it's a passion project, or the money's spread thin on a variety of different things, then sometimes you can't ask for those things, or you could pass on the project. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. If you like the project, if you want to work on it, then you're going to do it. Okay. If you're a working actor and not a famous actor, then you kind of take what you can get in a certain way, especially if you're non-union. If you're non-union, it's very different in your contract negotiations and all that kind of stuff versus somebody who's a union actor for SAG or for Equity UK. I mean, it's a very different level of conversation, of arbitration that goes into contract goes into contract negotiations and pay scale negotiations. So there's a million more things I could talk about, but I think these are just a few things that upcoming actors or voice actors should be aware, primarily voice actors. This really has been about voice acting, but it's just something that I want you to keep in mind, especially if you're new or you're beginning and there's certain things you don't know yet. I hope that this has helped you. But that is going to do it for me today. I have to get out of here. I have other things I got to do, and I knew that I was going to do an hour. I said, all right, Jay, you got to do an hour and give everybody at least a show that they want to hear. And I'm very happy I was able to do that. Everybody, have a great night. And this concludes your broadcast day with Phrasing with Jay.